When we analyse Latin literature, we're not just looking at what authors tell us, but how they tell it. Writers like Tacitus, Cicero, Virgil use a wide range of rhetorical and stylistic devices to shape the tone, influence the reader, and bring out character, emotion, or judgment. Now, we need to be able to recognise these techniques. It'll help us appreciate the artistry of Latin writing and better understand the author's perspective and purpose. So, what we're going to look at is a range of literary techniques used by Tacitus in Messalina, what they are, how they work, and why they matter. But these are tools you'll encounter in other texts, right? Poetry, speeches, other prose writings. So, learning to spot and explain them will strengthen your analysis across different authors. To help you remember what to look for when analysing a bit of Latin, we're going to use the anagram stamp. And each letter will go through different things you can look for. So S is for sounds. Think about alliterations, sibilants, and assonance. What sounds stand out, and what might the author, or why might the author have chosen them? T is for tone. What kind of mood is being created? Is it serious, bitter, mocking, or sympathetic? A is for arrangement. Look at the word order. Are words separated, or are they wrapped around each other? Is there a mirrored structure like a chiasmus? M is for meaning. What is the author trying to tell us or make us feel? Devices usually link to a message or judgment. And then finally, P is for pace. How fast or slow does the sentence feel? Does it rush forward or build slowly with suspense? This is the first one then. So Tacitus uses a syndeton, which is the omission of conjunctions to make scenes feel urgent and final. It's a technique that speeds up the pace of the sentence. In this phrase, non defensionem, non mores temptavit, describing Silius, we see it quite clearly. He doesn't hesitate, doesn't defend himself. The lack of and in between the two phrases makes it feel abrupt and final. The sentence barrels forwards just like Silius's fate does. Now, this is the opposite. Polysyndeton repeats conjunctions. It often makes a list feel weighty or total. We have populus et senatus et milites, where Tacitus is building the sense that absolutely everyone knows about Messalina's marriage. The people, the Senate, the army, everyone except Claudius. So it heightens his humiliation and isolation. Now, chiasmus is a mirrored structure, A, B, B, A. It often marks a turning point or contrasts two different ideas. When Tacitus writes Narcissus properavit, vertiset pennicies, he's showing that Narcissus hadn't, if Narcissus hadn't acted first, destruction would have turned on him. So the mirrored order reflects the reversal of fortune that could have happened. Now, in a chiasmus, the A's and the B's could be anything, right? The A's could be two nouns, the B's could be two verbs. It's just about the mirroring and the reversal of a normal structure. Polyptoton is where the same root word appears in a different form. Here it's imperavit and later imperatorem. Normally Tacitus refers to Claudius as princeps, but here, once Messalina's scandal is exposed, he calls him imperator. Now there's a suggestion that Claudius is finally behaving like an emperor, and it's repeated with imperavit, he ordered, imperatorem, an emperor. So maybe he's mocking him, but it's the repetition here that comes through. Variatio, this means deliberate variation, often to avoid repetition, but it can also signal a change in tone. Now, at this point, with this example earlier in the story, Tacitus often calls the children by name, Britannicus and Octavia, but later they're simply liberi. It's colder, more distant. It reflects their emotional appeal is now failing to move anyone. Enclosing order, or hyperbaton, wraps a phrase around other words. Here we have mirum inter haec silentium Claudii. The words for strange and silentium surrounds the interruption, right? It is literally enclosing what it's talking about. So it's a stylistic way of showing, I suppose, how detached or ineffective Claudius is here. Anaphora, this is the repetition of a word at the start of clauses. We have non defensionem, non moras. The repeated non makes Silius's surrender all the more stark. It creates for us some rhythm and emphasis, and in this case, underscores his absolute resignation to death. Now, sibilance is the repetition of S sounds, often creating a sinister or whispery tone. In sed supremis eis necessitatibus, the hissing gives the line a bitter, unpleasant edge. Now, Tacitus might be expressing his own scorn here for the situation, or for Messalina and her mother Lepida. Alliteration is the repetition of initial consonants. Tacitus uses this for tone and for effect. So we have per urbem pedibus pergamenta. The repeated P sound spits out Tacitus's contempt. It gives quite a nasty, harsh feel, matching the image of Messalina being carted away in that rubbish cart. Tacitus often uses the historic present, where he switches from a past tense to a present tense, even though it's still happening in the past, to make the narrative feel more vivid. He says, intrat prorumpit denuntiat. He brings us right into the moment, adding some urgency and drama, as if we are witnessing events as they happen, unfolding right before our eyes. Juxtaposition means placing contrasting ideas or images side by side. Clear example is ad sidebet mater, ad stititque tribunus. So the mother sits beside Messalina, full of pity. The tribune, however, stands ready to kill her. The physical contrast is apparent there, right, with this juxtaposition. It contrasts the compassion of the mother with the cold authority of the tribune. And then finally, Tacitus often ends his scenes with short, brutal phrases. Corpus matri concessum. Just 3 words. After all the emotion, panic, and drama, he finishes Messalina's story with a clinical brevity. Right? It's a very short phrase. After all the drama, he ends it with just 3 words. It's not sympathetic, it's final. Her story ends, and Tacitus moves on. Now, those are the main stylistic features. Remember, the more confident you become at spotting these techniques, the more clearly you'll understand what the author is doing, and the more convincing your own analysis will be. We've looked at how it's used, or how these techniques are used in Tacitus here, but they can be applied for all of the different authors that we'll look at for the 2 literature papers.